All right, the third and final set would be some productivity skills. So some basic Windows and Word proficiency sorts of things. Some specific tools that I'm calling productivity tools that I've listed here, and then also would try to integrate some basic productivity principles. Some call it like motivational kind of stuff, but there's some general techniques out there that build a lot on psychology, obviously, but are packaged in a way to make them very practical and useful. Something I didn't get as a student that I think would be helpful and students would find stress reducing and all that. Okay, so some basic Windows skills. One thing, how do you easily get the screen to split in two, so you have one program on one side, one program on the other side. There's quick ways to do this with keyboard shortcuts and Windows mouse dragging. There's also, on the similar vein, switching among windows. There's certain key techniques like the Alt-Tab will let you see all the different programs you have open and also let you toggle back and forth between two different programs. That's very helpful. There's a lot you can do with the taskbar to customize it, where you can pin apps that you use a lot to the taskbar and pin files here. The nice thing about the taskbar is it's always visible, so you don't have to go to a start menu or the desktop. This stuff is very easy to do, but it helps a lot and it lets you access certain files that you use frequently very quickly. There's also the notification area that is up on the if you keep your taskbar down here, it's on the lower right-hand side where the clock and date show up. It allows you to manage a bunch of the processes that maybe run in the background. I have like a extra virus protection software, a screen capture, various other things, and it lets you customize what shows up on your taskbar. Like I have it show that Dropbox is always visible, but it's very easy to work with, but it just takes a little bit of explaining to get you started. There's also a ton of Windows shortcuts that make it a lot easier to move around. So these different window keystrokes will launch different kinds of things, and there's also the task manager that you can pull up. I will say I know a lot of students and faculty, in fact, prefer Mac and work mostly with Mac. Windows is still dominant enough that I think having some of this stuff in your toolbox would be worthwhile to know. Word is still one of the dominant word processing platforms, and most people, in my experience, most students don't know the way to work with the keyboard to move stuff around quickly. So the navigating, selecting, editing text, there's some ninja-like character strokes that let you do stuff very quickly. There's also another thing I would love to teach is an APA style template. There are several that are out there. There's one that's provided by Microsoft per se, but it's instead of you doing all that formatting on your own when you have an APA style paper to write, it gives you the basic template to work with, and then you're just modifying it. But it's a great time saver. All right, some other productivity apps. LastPass. Most security experts recommend that you use some kind of password protection, password management software, just because each password is supposed to be unique. LastPass enables you, instead of having separate keys for all these different sites, it's one way that you remember one LastPass, one single password that is kind of the key that unlocks everything. So the way it works is you set a browser extension for whatever browser you want to work in. You create a master password that will open up LastPass functionality, and you can then save within it different credit cards, different financial information that you want to apply on a given website, and you get all the different websites that you go to, your Amazons and whatnot, Qualtrics, etc., so that you can automatically log in without having to type in passwords and user IDs for each. So it becomes very simple. There's a little logo that pops up. You can even set it up so it automatically fills it in and hits enter for you. Works across different devices, and there's a bonus in that once you have all your information stored in LastPass, it will enable you to fill out a bunch of forms that otherwise take a lot of time by remembering what your name is, what address, and all that stuff is. All right, Pocket is Another tool I use to keep track of information on the web, the basic story is it takes any kind of stuff you would read, like a web page or a New York Times article, and it creates a certain representation of it in Pocket. It's a little different from Zotero in that it works on any kind of content, not just PDFs. And it's the formatting is just beautiful, so that it's very easy to read something on a mobile device that before, oftentimes I find it's better formatting for reading than is shown in the original. It cleans up some of the ads, for example. So the basic story is you have some articles, some websites you're tracking, stuff you want to look at, read later, some videos or Twitter feeds or whatever. You can save all those in Pocket. And then the way it works is there's a browser plugin. You click on that when you want to save something, like here's this a New York Times article, and it then brings up this dialog box. You can just simply save it, or you can add a tag to it, so later you can search for those tags. If you have different research projects, different things you're trying to track over time, you can use those as tags. And then you get your own little personal library here that has all those different things that you saved. It integrates great with mobile devices, so this is from the Apple Store, but the formatting, again, makes it so you can fit the reading experience to the size of the screen that you're on. PDFs have become the standard go-to freestanding document to convey information. It's very helpful to know how to edit them, how to merge, for example, split PDFs, convert them to other things, a bunch of functionality that Adobe does if you have the license for it. But there's many other ways you can do just about anything Adobe does for free if you know where to look. And I can easily show you. There's some software that you, like PDF SAM, that you would store on your computer, and there's other ones that are just web-based. Another tool that once you have learned about it, you will find invaluable is a screenshot tool. There's a number of different ones out there. One easy one to learn is PicPix, and it gives you different ways of capturing different parts of the screen. And the huge advantage is, compared to just what Windows gives you, you can set it up so that any screenshot you take is saved to a folder, and you can specify how it names things. But that way you can take pictures of things you just want to be able to look back at later. And here's a sneaky thing. If you index this or link it to Dropbox, then any of those things you take pictures of, say, for example, flight information or book review or whatever, you can easily access on your mobile device as well. Dropbox does have a built-in phone scanner. Genius has some features that the Dropbox one doesn't. It's really good at auto-optimizing images. In other words, flattening those images, taking out the wrinkles, and highlighting or enhancing the contrast so that it's easy to read. Once you have it, once you've taken a picture of it, once you've scanned it, you can set the default to make it a PDF or a JPEG, but it's then very easy to share and email that or put it in Dropbox. I would also like to teach some basic tricks for how you work the Winthrop IT systems. For example, most people don't know within Wingspan, if you want to figure out certain classes, say, that meet the requirement for historical perspective, you can highlight all of these, then select the attribute that you're interested in and run that, and it'll just give you a screen of all the different historical perspective classes that you can take across the different academic areas. There's also a new course planning function within DegreeWorks that enables you to set out what courses you think you want to take and then run an audit, and it shows you where those count. And the big advantage of this is you can see if DegreeWorks is counting something in the wrong place, or you can make sure that philosophy 101 whatever class you're taking actually meets what you think it does. And then finally, I'd like to cover some just general productivity principles. This is kind of a side hobby of mine, but there are basic principles that some gurus in the field like David Allen and Stephen Covey, these are two real popular books. But almost all of these, I could outline for you the basic psychology, the more basic research that they draw upon on why these methods work. but they're packaged in a way that is very easy to understand and apply. And one of the reasons I would think it's helpful for students is if you think about being productive, it's one way of thinking about it is it lets you work more, but it also lets you manage stress a lot better because it takes away a lot of the triggers that are stressing you. And I think many students wrestle with anxiety, and this is one tool to put in your toolbox to lead a little more happy existence and not to be anxious as much. All right, that's the end of the third section. Thank you very much for helping me get some feedback on the value, perceived value of some of these different options for the tech course. You can fill out the last batch of survey questions now, but I just wanted to, again, thank you for your time and your help. All right, take care.